Good evening. You're watching Left, Right and Centre. I'm Nidhi Razdan. Tonight, the Cabinet abruptly defers an ordinance at the last minute on the crucial food bill after opposition from within, from Sharad Pawar and from key ally the Samajwadi Party. As a consensus evades this critical legislation, is there a danger that it will go the way of the women's bill? Also tonight, another daring Maoist strike. This time, 100 Maoists attack a passenger train in Bihar. Is the lack of political consensus here hurting the fight against Naxals? But first tonight, the Cabinet this morning deferred an ordinance on the food bill after opposition from within their own ranks. Sources say Sharad Pawar was strongly opposed to the ordinance route. In the past, he's also publicly expressed reservations about the bill itself. There is also opposition from the Samajwadi Party. While Finance Minister Chidambaram told reporters that the government wants to convene a special session of Parliament, Food Minister KV Thomas told NDTV this evening the ordinance route is still not ruled out. In fact, sources in the government say the government will approach the opposition for their amendments to the bill and that a special session will only be called if the government finds them acceptable.
We should not lose 6 or 7 weeks for this. And what is the guarantee that they will pass it in that session?
I would like to make one more effort to ask the opposition parties whether they will cooperate in passing the bill in a special session of Parliament. If that support is forthcoming, the bill will be passed.
Government says opposition from parties like the BJP and the left is the main reason why they did not push through an ordinance on food security. But there was opposition within. Sharad Pawar was opposed to the idea of an ordinance, and Samajwadi Party, who supports the government from outside, is totally opposed to the food security bill in its current form. That's why the decision to postpone the bill was taken at the highest level after the Prime Minister consulted the Congress President. This is what happened this morning.
This morning, the Prime Minister and Sharad Pawar spoke before the Cabinet meet. At the meeting, the Cabinet Secretary announced that the food ordinance has been deferred. The Prime Minister intervened and said one more attempt to convince the opposition should be made. Sources say Sharad Pawar is against the ordinance route. Parties like the NCP believe that once an ordinance is brought in, major changes to the food bill would be difficult, even if Parliament debates its provisions.
अच्छा हुआ आपने इस प्रश्न को उठाया। एक्चुअली आज कैबिनेट में जहां तक मुझे खबर मिलती है, एक मत नहीं है फूड सिक्योरिटी बिल के ऊपर। आज भी कुछ गड़बड़ है, फिर भी एक नाटक चल रही है कि विपक्ष के कारण ही वो रुकावट हो रही है।
The BJP and left support food security but want their own amendments. But the government wants an assurance that they will clear the bill regardless of the amendments. So, whether a special session of Parliament will be called is still very unclear. In New Delhi, with Sandeep Phukan, Keith Kyangre for NDTV.
So is a political consensus going to elude the food bill as well? Is it going to go the way of the women's reservation bill that's been pending for more than a decade now? Joining us on the program tonight, Mr. Ravi Shankar Prasad, the Deputy Leader of the Opposition in the Rajya Sabha, Mr. Kamal Farooqi, Senior Leader of the Samajwadi Party. Also with us this evening, Right to Food activist Kavita Srivastav and well-known economist Surjit Bhalla. Let me ask Mr. Farooqi first. Mr. Farooqi, one of the reasons that's being given for today's deferment is said to be the Samajwadi Party's opposition. Now, is the SP's opposition to the bill itself or to the ordinance route?
Number one, ordinance itself. We are totally against ordinance because we personally feel that the parliamentary democracy is there, and the government should try to bring the bill in the parliament. And we have already seen that all the opposition parties have said that even if the monsoon session is advanced, they are ready for it. Even for the special session, we are ready. But where is the need of a special session when after about a month we are going to have the monsoon session? We could even advance it. So the basic idea of Congress, frankly speaking, does not seem to help the poor. It's a political gimmick. Why? Because since 2009, the bill has not been in a position to be tabled. And now they are trying to blame the opposition party. Yes, partly BJP was responsible for the disruption of the parliament, of the house. But that does not mean that there is a consensus even within themselves. Now it is an open secret that Mr. Sharad Pawar, who happened to be the food minister for quite a long time, he is totally against it. and he does not want it to be presented in the present form.
Problem with the method, and you feel the bill itself is also fundamentally flawed.
We also have the problem in the bill, and we have already said that we have reservation about the bill, because to us it will affect very severely, it will affect the farmers, which is the core area.
Okay, I want to ask Mr. Prasad. Mr. Prasad, we have an interesting situation today where, because of internal opposition, the ordinance was put off. Mr. Chidambaram in the morning talked about a special session of Parliament. By this evening, the Food Minister didn't rule out an ordinance, and all senior government ministers are now indicating that they want to hear what amendments the BJP wants in the bill. If they're satisfied with that, that's fine. Otherwise, they may still go the ordinance way. How do you react to that?
Well, there are two issues. One is the manner of the passing of the bill, and the second is the issue relating to the contents of the bill. As for the manner of passing is concerned, this being a very important bill, a seminal bill, our view is very clear. Ordinance route is clearly uncalled for. Let there be a proper debate, a proper discussions, all the concerns be expressed. This whole blame to the BJP is clearly unfortunate. You know, we had said in the last session itself that let Pawan Bansal and Mr. Ashwani Kumar resign, and we are permitting to have a proper parliamentary proceedings, and they did not agree, and 2 days after the House was sine die, these two ministers were made to resign. You don't run parliament democracy based upon ego and arrogance. Now, as far as the content is concerned, prima facie we have three clear issues. First is, Nidhi, you may recall some of the state governments are having very good programs, Chhattisgarh in particular, where even vulnerable families, women have been recognized the head of the family, terminal ill patients have been given extra benefits. All these things are there. What happens to those programs where the state government, beyond the entitlement of the government of India, are giving help to the poor people? Second, very important, the whole standard of below the poverty line. There is a big debate, you know, in Delhi, there is Sengupta committee, there is Kelkar committee, there is a planning commission. Then there is an affidavit in the Supreme Court that in urban area 32 rupees per day, in rural area 28 rupees per day is enough to qualify. We in the Standing Committee in Finance are examining it. Many state governments are saying the state must be given the right to determine as to the below the poverty line. And the third, very important, is the expenses part of it. The government of India treats a particular standard and a benchmark for below the poverty line and said, sorry, beyond this, it is your headache. Now, in the light of the new bill, what additional expenses are going to be created and how they are to be borne, these are important issues which require deliberations, consideration, consistent with federal principle. And I think we will be perfectly justified, apart from the farmers' issue that Mr. Farooqi added. These are germane issues, relevant issues. And the government itself doesn't know what the left hand is doing. In the morning they say session, in the evening they say again ordinance. I don't think you bring these things in a hurry to win certain brownie points.